All right. Give our attendees a moment or two here to enter into the webinar room.
Absolutely, Keith. Nice to see you today.
Always excited to have you here, Stan.
Yes,
This
I'm very
is
excited.
your third or fourth time with us now.
I think this is the third time.
Third time? Okay.
Third time's the charm. Hey, Cindy,
Awesome.
Eric, Carla, I see you in the chat. Looks like welcome, everybody. We got,
All right.
okay,
Go
lots
ahead
of
and
people in the building.
yeah, everybody's getting in. Looks good. We can go ahead and kick things off. So, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Keith Spencer, and I am one of our career experts here at FlexJobs. And FlexJobs, for those of you who don't know, has been the most trusted site for remote job listings since 2007. We are thrilled to have as our guest today Stan Miller from Storicate to discuss mastering your response to Tell Me About Yourself. Stan is a professional trainer and storyteller who has been helping transform the way professionals narrate their journey for years, and we are very excited to have him present this webinar with us today. Before we dive into Stan's presentation, though, I do want to cover a few quick housekeeping items. This will be a 60-minute webinar that includes a presentation with Stan, followed by our audience Q&A. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be emailed out to all of you later this week. If you would like to ask Stan a question, please make sure to type it in the Q&A section rather than the chat section. And you can also use the thumbs up button in the Q&A section to vote up any other questions you'd also like to hear the answer to so that we can see which questions are the most popular. We probably won't be able to answer every question today, but we are fully confident that you will still learn something helpful. So with all that said, I would now like to turn things over to Stan. Welcome, Stan, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Keith and the team, and Katie and the team at FlexJobs. I appreciate you all so much. Welcome everyone. I just want to welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you're here. Before we dive in, the chat is going mad right now, which is awesome. Just drop in where you're joining in the chat if you haven't done that yet. I'm just watching the chat just go mad, which is amazing. I'm so glad. I think this is probably one of the largest webinars that FlexJobs has had in recent history. So I'm proud to be here with you. I'm happy you're here, and I want to give you some insight today. Now, today's topic is one that I care deeply about. It's how to turn your interviews into offers using some storytelling techniques. But before we get started, I want to poll the audience, and I'm going to ask Katie to drop that poll. Are you currently interviewing for a new role? If you are, drop in A. If you're looking for a promotion, drop in B. And if you're just here to learn, that's totally okay. Drop in C. So I would love for you to just complete this poll that you should see on your screen. I see a lot of A's here in the chat as well. So that's okay. But we do have a chat here for you. Now, today, there's an overview of our journey. And this webinar has been one of my most popular. It's not the same. I change it every time, but this is a bit of a remix. And so you're here for the remix. And I just want to start with what we're going to cover in this storytelling journey that we're going on today. So I'm going to introduce you, obviously, to some big marker tips. We'll make sure that we're all settled there. We're going to hit some storytelling. So I'm going to give you some story framework. So we'll hit storytelling, we'll go into some framework, and then I've got a surprise for you at the end. There's a massive opportunity that I want to invite you to at the end. Now, during our presentation today, as Keith said, if you have a question, I care so deeply about your question, but if you put your question in the chat, it's going to get lost in the chat. So use the Q&A feature for questions, and I promise I'll do as best as I can to get to as many of those questions as possible. Now, before we get started, I want to let you know you're in the right place. If you were an A, a B, or a C, you're in the right place. You probably put in some years, you've built some experience, you've checked every box, but somehow you're still not getting picked. A lot of you are great on paper. I know this, but when it's time to speak about yourself, things get a little bit fuzzy. Maybe you ramble, you overshare, you freeze up when someone says, "Tell me about yourself." You know you've done the work. Maybe you just can't seem to communicate it in a way that sticks. Now, if that is you, just type me. If you're tired of feeling invisible in rooms that you deserve to stand out in, say me in the chat. Let me know that you're here. Now, you may be finished watching less experienced people get the roles, the recognition, and the offers that you deserve. And I'm going to help you fix some of that today. So we start with promises. I'm going to help you gain the clarity you need when answering the question, tell me about you, in today's 60 minutes. You'll learn a framework. You're going to be able to use that framework to prepare for interviews in the future. Now, I'm going to teach you how to build deep human connections with interviewers that lead to offers. Now, most of us prepare based on what we believe works and what we've been told works. So there are some preparation methods that I call the preparation trifecta. And when I'm speaking to candidates, executives, and especially mid-career professionals, they are typically in one of these three categories. Again, I call it the preparation trifecta. And that today it's possible that you're in one of these categories right now. And I'd want you to explore these archetypes with me so that we can kind of level set as we get into the learning. Now, first, there's the researcher. Now, researchers believe that knowledge is power. Every piece of information that you can get matters. You spend hours on job descriptions, company websites, aligning your skills to the job. You leave no stone unturned when it comes to information. And one thing you care deeply about is letting everyone know that you've done your homework. Now, the second persona here is the researcher. Maybe this is you. Precision and practice are your mantras if you are a researcher. Every word matters. You've played out the interview in your head, all the scenarios, all the questions. Your goal is to be solid on responses to every question in all scenarios. Now, practicing may make you feel less nervous, so you go all in on scenario prep. And finally, I have my renegades are in the room. Now, I know there are some renegades in this room. You believe the power of genuine, unscripted responses. You think, I've got this, and believe that you can handle any curveball they throw your way. Generally, you probably think that you can simply show up and sell your way into the role. Now, I want to ask you a question. I want you to drop in the chat. Are you, and there's no judgment here, by the way, there's no wrong answer. Which number resonates with you today? 1, 2, or 3? All right, I'm just looking. I see a bunch of 1s. I see some 2s. Now, I see some 3s peppered in there. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Some of you are saying 1, 2, and 3. All right. Okay, so now we've level set that. I've got a little bit of everybody in the room, but a lot of 1s, which I understand. Now, some of you have never met me before, so I'm just going to take 2 minutes to tell you about me. I live in Orlando, Florida. I'm a girl dad. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Kyla, which you'll see here in this picture. And I've been with Kyla for over 20 years. We've been married. Naya is 18, and she is an inbound freshman. She's my daughter. Gabriella is married. I have another daughter. And so I have 2 girls. Gabriella lives in Austin, and she works for Netflix. Now, I left AT&T years ago as a mid-level manager. I joined a tech startup, and 3 years later, I became a C-level executive at that startup. About 3 years ago, I left it all behind to build a professional development company and programs to help people like you to achieve greatness in their careers. Now, the truth is that I have something that's really important for you today. Now, I know that we tend to multitask on these types of calls, and I understand that because I am guilty of that. So with that said, I want to invite you to turn off your distractions. I know it's easier said than done, but I'm inviting you into an experience today. And if you're distracted, you're going to miss this gift. So over the next 50 minutes, I'm going to share exactly what you need to change the way you tackle Tell Me About You. And at the end, I have something special to announce. So stay with me. Now, I made promises. Before I teach you something, I'm going to ground you in some truths. I want you to take notes. So if you have somewhere that you can take notes, whether that's digital on a notepad, do take notes right now. The first truth that I'm going to cover with you, which you need to know as we approach this work, is when interviewing, it's not what they think about you, it's how they feel about you. The number one criteria for selection is trust, not skills. Now, there is a way to build trust, but it involves building an emotional connection inside the interview. The second truth is The interviews are moving forward based on what they believe and who they believe you are. They've already said yes. So I want you to think about this. You've prepared, you've got invited into this interview. They've already said yes. There were hundreds of people that they've said no to that will never get to the interview. They've said yes. And you must show up to support their decision. This is a mindset shift because some of us think, I've got to get in this interview and prove myself. And there is some of that, but they already believe that you are a viable candidate. And I hope you understand that because they've invited you. They're not interviewing 200 people. Maybe 6 to 8 are going to get that call. So they believe it's a yes. So do not convert that yes to a no. Now, on to number 3. There is no skill set or qualification or achievement that outweighs human connection. When all things are equal and all candidates are equal at times, who they feel the most connection with gets the offer. Now, we get on this interview timeline based on a 60-minute interview, and our goal should be to reveal information over time. But here's what happens. You seek to pack all the energy and your background at the front end of the interview, which I want you to think about as the story of you. In the first few minutes, you just unload on the answer of tell me about you. And it starts with tell me about you. And at that moment, some of you are feeling like this. Some of you feel like this. Yes, you're seeking, and some of us are seeking to impress and not inform. And some of you may end up going with the highlight reel, the chronological history of your background, or the worst case is resume regurgitation. Remember, they've already said yes to your resume. Why would you show up and read it back to them? What some of us are failing to realize is that you have an entire hour here to get your story out. Now, I want you to imagine Luke meeting Yoda, completing the Jedi training, finding out Darth Vader was his father, overcoming that, and destroying the Death Star all in 5 minutes. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So if you are with me and it resonates and you believe that you have an hour to get the story of you out, not 5 minutes at the beginning, drop a yes in the chat. Drop a yes in the chat if that's you. Okay, it's possible. And when we do it wrong, the result is the interviewer is lost. Because once they know everything about you, I want somebody to hear this in this room. Once they know everything about you, their curiosity dies. There's no emotional momentum. There's no reason for them to lean in. And that's exactly what's happening when you overshare at the top of the interview. You're giving them the entire movie when what they actually need is the trailer. I'm going to say that again. You're giving them the entire movie, and what they actually need is your trailer. Now, most people feel like this when they're telling their career story. Now, look at this closely. Have you felt like this in the past? Engage in the chat if this is you. Just say yes and true. Yes or true. This is the way we feel when we are telling our story. And I can tell you from firsthand, I remember interviewing and losing job opportunities and apologizing after I shared a story that was too long. Anybody with me there? Anybody ever done that? This isn't storytelling. Okay, this isn't storytelling. The result here is confusion. And if you confuse your interviewer, you will lose the opportunity. Now, I've spent time obviously unpacking how to win at this. And there's one way that we can win. It's the power of story. And if I ask many of you on this call today, and I wish I had an opportunity to speak with you and have it be a two-way conversation, but I've got the chat here. I asked you, what is a story? Most of you are going to say it's telling people what happened so that they gain an understanding. And that's not wrong. And it does support our desire to deliver chronological events. There's a different way to think about your story in an interview One of the very best definitions of story that I've heard, and I got this most recently in a LinkedIn live session from Dennis Ross. And Dennis points out it's not telling others what happened, it's telling others what happened because of what happened. So there has to be a deeper meaning and an engagement and an understanding when you're talking about your story. So I decided to take some of that and put together some do's and don'ts for you. And I want you to pay close attention to these, and you can write them down, of course, if you'd like. So don't start with information, do start with meaning at the beginning of your story inside of your interview. Do not sequence in chronological order. You don't have to do that. You want to sequence information that matters. Do not share from your story from event to event. Share your story from effect to effect. What happened was what the big thing that happened in your story, and how did you get to the next big thing? Don't overshare and drown them in details. Share only the most relevant moments. Now, all of you may be saying, well, this makes sense. The most important thing to remember is that good stories are really simple. They're deceptively simple in structure. And it's the sequence or the story sequence that matters most. So I'm going to give you all right now a modified story arc that I use to help people answer the question, tell me about you. And this is going to clarify things for you. So a story is a transformation over time. It starts with a beginning and ends with a resolution. Fundamental storytelling. Before I unpack the story arc for Tell Me About You, you must know that there are different patterns for different types of story. The pattern that I'm sharing with you today is one of many patterns. This pattern is exclusively designed by me for Tell Me About You in interviews. For example, this is not the pattern that you use for answering behavioral questions. It's exclusively, again, designed for Tell Me About You. Start with an introduction. So at the beginning, your story starts with an introduction. You reveal the first chapter of your experience, followed by a defining moment and a resolution that leads to chapter 2. We're going to go much deeper into this in this call, okay? We're just touching the surface here. That is chapter 1. Chapter 2 is more of the same. You introduce chapter 2 and you move to a defining moment and a resolution in chapter 2. Now, chapter 3 reveals where you are today, but is not the end of your story. I want you to think of chapter 3 as a revealing of a new desired state. This is where you want to be. This structure is simple: beginning of your experience, the middle, and the now. But it's not easy. You don't naturally think about your career in chapters. And in order to do this, you should bucket your experiences into chapters to help this work. Some of you have changed roles, have gained new responsibilities, worked on different projects and clustered them, and you can cluster them into groups. Now, it's okay if your chapters are in chronological order, but remember, you are the storyteller, so you can tell the story how you desire to tell the story. You can leave things out. You can omit, you can add things in. So how do I think about this? I want you to think about this in this way. I want you to start with your resume and ask yourself questions as you evaluate your experiences. There are 4 key questions that you can ask yourself that will help you get to the chapters that we're talking about in this storytelling approach that I'm going to unpack further here. The first question is, what drives you to do the things that you do best? Circle those things. What led you to the changes and moves? Again, not what were the changes, what led you to the changes and moves. Write those things down. Ask yourself, are there 3 clear chapters or disciplines or roles or pivots in your career? If so, what were those 3, and put names on them? Now, what happened before the final job listed on your resume? Surface some context and motivators. What happened? Now, when you're done brainstorming and clustering your chapters, so the goal there is to get to chapters. And what I want for you is to have 3 chapters, and you'll want to frame up your intro. So before you get to your chapters, you don't want to sound robotic and just go into 3 chapters. You want to give them a bit of an intro that's going to sound different. I call this a pattern disruption in an interview. Okay. So these are the ingredients to an effective introduction. So there's an overarching career theme, a name. Yes, I know this is going to sound strange. Name your story. I'll tell you why, but name your story. The number and names of the chapters. Always go with 3 chapters. Why do we even use chapters? And I'm going to tell you this. The reason we use chapters is because people know what chapters are. If I say, hey, I'm going to tell you a story in 3 chapters, do you know what a chapter is? Give me a yes in the chat. Do you know what a chapter is? It's going to resonate. Give me a yes in the chat and say, I know what a chapter is. Yes, of course. There's a connection from the intro to chapter 1, and then you're going to set expectations for the journey ahead. Now, many of you have attended many a webinar where someone gets on and they just talk and they tell you about all these cool things that can happen for you, but I'm not your average host. So I told you I'm not just going to tell you some things, I'm going to show you some things today. And I feel like that I am committed to doing that. So I want to show you what an effective intro sounds like. Okay. I want to show you what an effective intro sounds like. And what you're seeing here is this is a framework. So now would be the time to take your camera out, your phone, and take a picture of this. This is a framework. Okay. Now, this framework is, sort of, I like to think about my career as this type of theme having 3 chapters. I call chapter 1 this, chapter 2 is this, and then I reveal chapter 3, which is where I am now. It sounds simple. But anyone in this room think, okay, Stan, I see your framework, but I don't actually know how that sounds. Is there anyone? So I guess my real question is does anyone want to see this in action? Do you want to see me demo this? So type yes in the chat if you want to see me demo, because I'll demo it for you if you'd like. Yes? Okay. I got enough yeses here. Awesome. All right. So what I might say about myself is I like to think about my career as a reinvention story with 3 chapters. Now, I call chapter 1 my exploration years, where I spent 12 years at AT&T in 7 different roles. Chapter 2 was my pivot from corporate to startup. And chapter 3 is where I am today as an entrepreneur, where I teach storytelling to career professionals. What? That's it. That's the intro. It took me less than 40 seconds to get through that intro. High level. You notice how high level I'm starting with this? I am setting the context for what I'm about to say. 21 seconds. I love that. Somebody was timing me. Okay. Do you all feel good about that? Just type wow in there if you feel that, if you feel like I could do that. Right. And I didn't reveal much. I'm looking at the chat. I didn't reveal much. Okay. So that is the framework for an intro, but that's it. We're not leaving our audience on an intro. Okay. Now what we need to do is move into the chapters. Each one of these chapters will carry a similar pattern with 4 elements. Now, if you're with me, either take a picture of this or write this down, because you need this information. Okay. Every chapter of your story is going to have a motivator or some motivators. This is where you reveal what you were seeking to gain in that chapter. Then you're going to talk about some challenges, problems you face, discoveries, and lessons learned. Then you're going to reveal defining moments. These are reflective moments. These are events that sparked a turning point that changed you. And then resolutions, 4th recipe here, decisions that you made to support a move to the next chapter. So we are actually taking our chapters, and we aren't talking about the 14 different jobs and the job titles and the promotion that we got or lost and the emotion of how we felt when we lost that. We're actually saying, when I was in this chapter, this is what I was seeking. There were some challenges in that. And here's who I worked for. And there were some challenges in that that led me to some defining moments. And then ultimately a decision, which was a resolution that brought me to what was next. You have 60 minutes in most cases in an interview. You do not want to reveal everything in the first 5 minutes. Don't do it. For some of you, it may take 10. This is your roadmap: motivators, challenges, defining moments, and resolutions. Now, I've got to unpack this further for you to get this. Okay. Some ideas that I'm sharing today are going to be taught and others will be caught. So I'm hoping that you catch this as I'm sharing it. When you have your idea for a chapter formed, here's some of the example language that I'm giving you to use to help you deliver these ideas. Now, note this: each chapter should have all 4 of these ingredients, okay? And consider this me lending you some language, but you can feel free to use your own, okay? Now, number 1, motivators. This is how we tee up our motivators in our stories. My greatest desire was to do this thing. I set out to do this other thing. I was initially drawn to technology because of this thing. Okay. Those are motivators. Challenges. Okay. Challenges reveal problems and lessons. So I might say, I discovered something special, or despite what I thought, there was something really interesting happening right now that was a problem that I found. I might even tell my audience that even though things weren't easy, I enjoyed what I was doing for a specific reason. Again, these are reveals. These are challenges. Okay. Defining moments. These are the defining moments that showcase your resiliency and self-awareness. I might use, I might highlight a turning point here, or let them know how I was feeling. Even let them know what I experienced in a moment of truth. Okay. This is going to be a moment that causes you to do things differently, that moves you to the resolution, which are your decisions that bridge you to what's next. Remember, we're laying out a path for them to understand our experience and how we make decisions, not give them all of the information and just prove ourselves yet. Okay. Sometimes these things and resolutions are in our control, and sometimes they're not, and that's okay. So let's just say you were laid off or affected by a workforce reduction. You let them know how you forged your way forward. If you changed willingly at the end of a chapter, define that decision and let them know the reason behind that decision. You're teaching them how you make decisions in your initial story. This reveals the human side of your decision-making power and how you think about things. So in chapter 1, this is yet another framework. So this is the framework that I teach to people who have secured hundreds of jobs. So hundreds of people secured hundreds of jobs using this simple framework. We've got an intro. We then move that intro into chapter 1. Okay. Take a picture of this. Now, are we up for another demo? Should I do another demo? So type yes in the chat if you want me to do another demo here. So what I'm doing in this demo is I've already given my introduction. I've given them the 1, 2, and 3 chapters. Now I'm going back to the 1 and I'm just going to double click on chapter 1 for my audience. Okay. So after I give them my intro, okay, I'm going to say something like, in chapter 1, I had a deep desire for success and I was most interested in sales. And after 12 years in telecom, I learned that my love for sales was actually a love to help others. So 7 roles later with AT&T, I moved from sales to ops to marketing and eventually into a leadership position. I had learned to serve, but something wasn't right. I still wasn't serving myself. And I remember waking up wondering if my real destiny was to die the phone guy in my family. And the answer was no. So I decided to pack up my experience and create a change, which started chapter 2, which was a new beginning in the startup world. Okay. So what did you think of that? What did you think of that? Give me some. Okay. Eric, thanks. I appreciate that. This is the framework that you can use. Okay. It should feel smooth. It should feel somewhat natural. Again, this is not a lot to memorize, by the way. Not a lot to memorize. So I want you to think about, I've just shared the intro and I've just shared chapter 1. Chapter 2 and chapter 3 are really rinse and repeat. You just have to prepare your chapters and rinse and repeat on them. Okay. Now, at the end of your chapter 3, the most important thing that you can do in an interview is give the power back to your interviewer. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly what that means. I want you to spark curiosity. You'll end chapter 3 with a bridge or an open door for them to walk through. That bridge communicates who you want to help, how, and is an invitation for them to ask you questions. Now, an effective tell me about you story at the beginning of an interview doesn't go through all of your roles and responsibilities. Please understand that. We are giving them the trailer, teaching them how you've made decisions, and giving them context for them to start asking you questions. Hear me when I say that. Tell me about yous are not reverse regurgitations. Well, the good tell me about yous are not reverse regurgitations. This is where we make big mistakes. They've already read your resume. They didn't desire to come in and just read back what they already know. They want to learn something new. And this is a way to give them to tell me about you, how I think, what I've been through, the places that I've been, and what I'm desiring right up front. Now, the story, the tell me about you story ends with an invitation. Very important. Very, very important. It sounds something like, as I pursue what's next, I'm looking for a position that allows me to do some things and to make a contribution at the company you're interviewing with. So I'm sure this is the key. Everyone tune in right now. I'm sure you've reviewed my resume and may have some curiosities about my roles and experiences, and I'm excited to start unpacking them for you right now. Where would you like me to start? Remember we talked about an invitation? Now, I want you to imagine right after you tell them about you, you've given them the 3 chapters, you're ending on, hey, I'm sure you've reviewed my resume and you probably have some curiosities about my roles and experiences because you haven't given them to them. So I'm excited to start unpacking those. Where would you like me to start? Now you're giving the keys to the car back to the interviewer and saying, I'm ready to go. Where would you like to go? And what they should do in turn is say, thank you for that. And where I'd like to start is here, or I'd like to start with this particular question. Okay. This is a different pattern and a different framework, folks. Okay. This is a different pattern and a different framework. I'm going to give you 1 second here to snap a picture of this. And by the way, the recording, I see some of you asking about the recording, and the recording will be delivered. Okay. And so I've just showed you all the 3-chapter approach that I teach to executives, that I teach to mid-career professionals, that I've taught to my kids. Right. This is the pattern that I teach. It has helped many people. But what I can tell you is I can't give you everything in this session, right? We're at about just over a half hour, halfway through, and I want to give you some of my time to answer some questions. But I've created something deeper, right? A space for you that you won't just learn the framework, you'll be able to practice it, refine it, and make it yours, right? Now, if you remember our agreement from earlier, I asked for some permission for you to hang out for a bit, and I want to offer you something that I think is pretty darn special. But first, I want to ask you: is that okay? Do you agree that this has been so far time well spent? Have we spent some good time together? Just drop a yes in the chat if this has been some good time spent on this particular topic. Okay, I think I'm seeing lots of you say yes. Okay, great. From the look in the chat, I think we're where we need to be. Okay, and so I can't cover everything in 1 hour, and so what I see here is that you, on the end of this webinar, at the end of this teaching, have 2 options. You can keep going at this thing alone, and you could show up to meetings and networking and interviews and prepare, rehearse, memorize, and hopefully you'll influence some outcomes and you will get a job. There's no doubt. But option two, people are going to decide right now that they need help. They want to find that help and they want to get better at the outcomes. So if you are a number two and you are in that bucket that wants to make a decision right now to find the help and to get really good at this so you can get that next job or get that promotion, I want you to drop me or number two, drop number two in the chat. Tell me if you're a number two. I want to see how many number twos are in this webinar. Okay. There's a bunch of number twos here. Yes. Okay. All right. So I see a lot of number twos flowing in. Thank you all so much. So I'm in the right room. Now, you're about to get access to my 4-day storytelling secrets series. Okay. This is a short video mini series that's delivered straight to your inbox every day over the next 4 days. Okay. If you're a number two, this is for you. That rhymed. That was good. If you're number two, this is for you. Each lesson is under 25 minutes. It's video and it's packed with strategies that will help you fix messy stories and unclear stories. So you're going to fix these stories. All right. It's going to help you build trust quickly without selling yourself. So you don't have to feel like you have to sell yourself anymore. And it's going to help you show up to confidence, with confidence in these interviews and these high stakes conversations, right? Now, whether you're trying to land a role, earn a promotion, or get some buy-in, this is the series for you. And I put it together especially for you. Now, in day one, you're going to get an email from me if you sign up for this, and it's going to be unlock your story in 7 steps. I'm going to walk you through 7 simple prompts that will take you from scattered thoughts to well-structured, clear stories for your interviews. Okay. Now, if your story feels too long or too bland, this is the day that changes it all. Okay. Day one. Day two, I'm going to teach you how to nail your interview. Now, this is a remix of today's session. So this is going to be a bit of a reminder of the 3-chapter approach, and I'm going to help you transform your intro into a trust building story. Okay. In day 3, you need a statement that sums up your value in 15 seconds. Some of you call this an elevator pitch. And honestly, I have a whole separate webinar and teaching on elevator pitches, but we need to get away from elevator pitches and selling as we introduce ourselves. What you need is something that sparks curiosity and earns attention. That's what happens in day 3. I'm going to show you how to build what I call a superpower statement. This is an intro line that sets the tone in any room. And I want you to imagine being able to explain what you do in a way that makes people feel instantly connected and want to know more. Okay? I want you to imagine that. Now, we are going to round it off with day 4. Now, day 4 is all about mistakes that people make when pitching. This costs you trust and it costs you clarity. I'm going to break down 5 things, 5 mistakes, and show you exactly what to say instead so that your pitches sound natural, clear, and persuasive. Now, if you jump into day 4, there's a video. This will help you with your pitches and help you reach some persuasion. All right. We're going to talk about pitches, the things that block influence and try to unblock you. Okay. Now, if you've ever stumbled through explaining your value, day 4 will show you how to pitch without feeling pushy. Now, before I let you go today, because you're deciding, if you decide to sign up for my storytelling lessons, by the way, this is free. Okay. Free. Not selling you anything on this call. I'm giving you one massive bonus, and this is the biggest thing that I can give you, which is my time. It's the most valuable thing I have. I am going to be hosting a private live training session where I'm going to help you apply what you've learned in real time. This isn't fluffed. This isn't a fluffy webinar. You're going to be in a room with me. It's direct coaching with me. You're going to experience many more of my story structure methods. You're going to learn how to adapt to them and tell better stories. And I'm going to show you exactly how to move to the next level in your storytelling. Okay. So the bonus is you get to join me in a room. Okay. Now, some of you in this, some of you are ready. If you're ready, just type in ready. Okay. If you're ready, type in ready. Type in ready if you're ready. Okay. Now, if you're ready, here's the opportunity. You get the massive bonus, which is you're going to get an invitation via email inside of the series. So you'll get the 4 storytelling secrets mini courses delivered directly to your email. And I will also include in those emails, in that email sequence that you get over the 4 days, an invitation to the live session. If you do not sign up for the storytelling secrets, I'm not offering the live session. Okay. So this is for people, and there's a reason for that, just so you know. This is for people who really desperately want the help, and I need you prepared for the live session. Okay. So Keith and team, I think you can drop an actual link, but you could pull out your phone here and scan this QR code, pop your email in there, give me your first and last name and your email, and I'm going to make sure that you actually get day 1 today. You're going to get day 1 today. Now, I hope that this is valuable for you, that this time has been valuable for you. I have left plenty of space. What I've learned about performing in these live events is that, you can go really long as a presenter and you could leave no time at the end, and then everyone feels disappointed because they didn't get their question answered. So I have got plenty of space for you. I'm going to leave the code up here. I'm going to leave this here, and I'm going to actually invite Keith back on. But before I do that, Keith, before I invite you back on, I just want to hear from you. If this was valuable and you're interested in joining us on this 4 storytelling secrets journey, just type yes in the chat so I know how many of you are with me. All right. And some people need the registration link. Okay. So yeah, I see some people. Yes. Join me. Join me. I want to give you what you need to get better at storytelling. And if you believe that storytelling is going to help you, this is the way to do it. All right. So now, Keith, I'm going to invite you to come on and jump on, and let's just navigate through some of these questions if you don't mind. And if it's okay, Keith, I'll just keep this up and keep asking you to pop that link or give people some direction on where to get that link, my friend.
Yes, no problem, Stan. I will keep throwing that in the chat if people have not grabbed it already. And it is also, if you go to our handout section and look at the resources there, you can find that and other links from Stan there. So let me just drop that in one more time, and then we'll turn to our questions here. Okay. And thank you, Stan, for sharing all that. That was great. I really love the the sequence of telling your chapters or your career story. So that's wonderful.
Love it, my friend. Thanks for the invite. You guys are always so good to me. Thank you so much. I appreciate
So
you.
our first 2 questions here, Stan, with the highest number of upvotes, they both are related to ageism. So, some things that you maybe want to avoid saying in an interview to potentially age yourself or trigger some maybe unconscious bias in your interviewers. Any advice about ageism?
Yeah. So one of the things that I would tell someone who asked me that question, if I were live coaching them, Keith, would be, let's think about how you structure your interview in terms of your story, as you can start chapter 1 whenever you want. You do not have to start chapter 1 35 years ago. It is your story. And so you can navigate chapter 1 as being something that happened 10 years ago, and really just compel them to gear them to emotionally connect with the chapters that are the most recent chapters. And so a lot of times the mistake that we make, or how we feel, is that we've got to go back years and years and surface things that are really less relevant to our audience, Keith. And that actually gives us a lack of confidence. We stumble because it's so dated. So you're the owner of your story. You are the owner of your story. And so start that story whenever you like. And that's kind of a bit of a mini hack there. But ageism is real. And first of all, if you're experiencing ageism, I'm so sorry. It's real. I mean, we all know it's real. And there's no magic trick that I can give you. But what I can help you with is your language, and help you build the trust you need, because people buy based on trust. People select based on trust. All right, I see a bunch of emails coming into the chat. I don't have an ability to put you on the Forest Storytelling Secrets course without you scanning the code or going to the link. So I did just want to let you all know that. Okay. So
Yes, and we encourage you to not share your email in the chat because there's lots of attendees here. So just make sure I'll drop that link again here, Stan, so people can grab
yeah,
that.
all good. All good.
Let's see. Okay, so our next question, this person, so they had sort of a subsequent question about ageism, but we can kind of skip that because you touched
Mhm.
on that already. But how would you handle an interview when you maybe have a lot of experience, but you feel like you're sort of in the wind down of your career and you're not interested in necessarily, climbing that corporate ladder anymore? How do you kind of communicate that without sounding negative?
So what I call that in coaching is the encore stage.
Hmm.
Okay. I want you to, if that's you and you were on this call and that's you, I want you to start referring to that as your encore. You ever go to a concert and you had a great time and then there's like everybody sticking around for the encore? The encore stage, Keith, is a stage of your career and your life where you care more about purpose and less about paycheck. That doesn't mean, Keith, that paycheck isn't important.
Right.
Paycheck is important, but you are more purpose driven towards the end of your career. And if you can understand how to communicate that purpose and that you are purpose driven and that this is the encore, that they can be a part of your encore moment, oh, you can be unstoppable inside of an interview.
I love that comparison because like an encore at a concert, a lot of times they're saving some of the hits for that encore, so
That's
the
right, man.
best
That
is yet
last
to
that
come.
last song hasn't been played. Everybody's wondering,
Yeah.
where is that last song? And man, if you come out with that encore and that attitude of, hey, I know I've had a great career and I'm not done. My best hits are coming out right now. My
Yep.
most valuable contributions are to come. Call it the encore. You have to call it the encore stage in order for you to believe it if you're in this call.
Hmm.
Please do that.
Awesome. I love that. Our next question here, Stan, someone is asking if they should include, personal information kind of outside of work in their, response to tell me about yourself, or should you keep it strictly professional?
So let me talk about let me answer that with just revealing a mistake that happens in when we talk about ourselves. Sometimes we talk about moments in our career that we are emotional about.
Hmm.
Okay? And what happens is your audience can sense that. So if you're talking about things that happen that you are emotional about, I would suggest that you do not bring those up in an interview. And here's why. What you want is for them to connect with you emotionally. They don't want to experience you getting emotional.
Hmm.
You want them to be emotional and build the emotional connection with you. And sometimes your emotion can block that. And so wanting to tell them that this is the thing that happened to me and it's so unfortunate, it's going to potentially block their emotional connection with you, even though it's deeply emotional and resonant to you. So my thing would be just don't do it.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think that's sound advice. Okay, so next one here, Stan. So someone's asking, what happens if you have made it to the last round of interviews and you get,
Uh-huh.
the thanks but no thanks kind of response, and then you see that they have reposted the role. Is there an
Mhm.
opportunity there to kind of retell your story in a different way, or should you kind of consider it to be a lost cause, so to speak?
Yeah, so a couple things happen, Keith, and I'll answer that question, but I'm going to take a little bit longer to do it. Just I want to put some context to it. Um, when we get deep into an interview, sometimes we inherently will change how we communicate in each interview, and we think we need to tell different stories in different interviews. We actually don't. Most likely, the people that are making the hiring decision aren't all talking about you at the same time, sharing your detailed stories and those things. So what I want you to do is through the interview, I want you to be consistent. I want you to be the same version of the person that showed up on interview 1 as interview 4 with the executive, if that's where you're at. Okay. Now, sometimes what I have seen in my career is there are times that you try to do something a bit too much at the end of the interview, and that might change how they feel about you. In turn, sometimes that is a no. Okay. regardless, when we get turned down for an interview, many times it's because you haven't built the belief and the trust in the interview that you are the right candidate. And that may lead to them opening the role back up. Now, if you have a solid relationship with an HR contact at the company, I think it's totally okay to email them to say, I've noticed that this has come up again. Is this still something that I can participate in? And again, I always would say, you know, you want to do that. There's also companies that could be, posting jobs just to build the talent pool. Now, I don't think that view that as ethical, Keith, but there are companies that really are just talent pool building and trying to surface candidates. And you may be a victim of that. And if that has happened to you, I'm so sorry that has happened to you, but it does happen.
Yeah, you definitely read reports of some of those ghost jobs, as they're called, have been kind of running rampant, which is definitely
Yeah.
unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, but you know
Mhm.
what? The other side of the coin here, Keith, is you should have conviction about around being as prepared as you can be. And
Mhm.
I just have a deep conviction and belief that if you can tell great stories about your past and histories, that in itself will help them understand, you have the skills, you have the right behaviors, and you have the right approach to solving problems that will land you jobs. Not
Yeah,
all of these jobs are the ones that you should be doing anyway.
absolutely. All right, Stan. Our next question here. This person is asking, how do you address being out of work and not making it seem like a negative, kind of regardless of the reason for it? Could be a layoff, could have been an
Mhm.
intentional pause. How do you make it not seem like a negative as part of your story?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like I'm guessing that there might be people in this room right now that have been out of work for some period of time.
Mhm.
I hope. I mean, I don't know if I'm right there, but I may be. If that's you, what I would say in chapter 3, when you're introducing yourself, you want to let them know what happened, and that may be a layoff. It may be something that you perceive as negative and is emotional, right? Um, you want to let them know what happened. Layoffs, reductions in force, these are all things that are normal. They are normalized in today's environment. So no one's going to say, well, this person must not be great because they have been experienced a reduction in force. So embrace that. If it's been months, you want to let them know what you've been doing over the last few months. Okay. When I was laid off, this was probably 10 years ago. It it was like a punch in the gut to me. I had thought I had such deep connections with people, and then I got laid off, and it took me like a year to come back. This was 10 years ago, Keith. Okay. And when I started talking about my story and trying to get my footing back, I had to let them know that, it's okay to take a break. I had been working for 15 years. So whatever you say, whether it's I took a little deep breath, I took a pause, I took a just natural break to I like to use the word recalibrate. Like I needed
Mm,
some time to recalibrate. And a lot of people connect with that because if they were given the opportunity, the interviewer were given the opportunity and they were laid off, they would probably recalibrate as well.
mm.
So I would think, there is a place for you. If that's you, there is a place for you. Don't be afraid to tell them that you've been recalibrating. They know the market is not easy. They all understand that. Um, and so embrace where you are, embrace where you've been, and let them know you're in transition. To Joe's point here.
Now, we have a very similar question, Stan, but maybe we could kind of frame this a little differently. I think
Sure.
that was great advice for, a layoff or a reduction in force. But what
Mhm.
if it's, a gap that has maybe been for a few years? Like, let's say hypothetically, you took some
Mhm.
time off to focus on caregiving or something like
Mhm.
that. Do you include that in the introduction as well?
Yeah.
Do you phrase it differently? What are your thoughts in that scenario?
Sure. One thing that you should know about me is that family is so critically important to me. And during the middle of my work experience, I experienced one of my closest family members had a situation that required me to exit a job unexpectedly, and that was for the period of about a year and a half. And as part of that, while I wasn't in the workforce, I was doing the thing that I thought was the best work in my life that I could ever do, which was taking care of my family member.
Hmm.
That's what I would say. By the way, that's not real. I just made that up, but that's what I would say. I wanted to give you the
It
example.
felt real. That was
I,
good,
I,
Stan.
I just made that up. But that is the story I would tell. I mean,
Very
if it's your story, right? That's what I would say. Because I know that the person sitting, this is the key here. Everyone on the call, listen to this. This is the key. When I say that, it connects with the person sitting across the table. It connected with Keith because Keith could imagine himself doing the same thing.
good. Hmm.
You cannot, they were not going to hold it against you for taking care of your family. I don't have acting in my background, Lisa. I'm just really good at like kind of diving into the moment and trying to give you I love to give real examples because I don't do great in hypotheticals. Like I want real scenarios.
Well, and I'm sure that example was relevant to plenty of people on the call. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, our next question here. We have time for maybe two more. We'll see. But this person is asking you, what if you are switching careers or fields kind of in the middle of your life?
Mhm.
How do you handle this in an interview when you already might be feeling that imposter syndrome,
Sure.
starting something new kind of later in life and maybe competing against other candidates who are younger or have more experience?
Yeah. So here's the one thing that the one mistake that people do is they try to justify the pivot with certifications,
Hmm.
additional education. I'm doing all this stuff proactively to learn this thing that I've never done. Okay. If you're doing that, that's okay. That is a way. That's not what I would do. What I would do is focus in on displaying the defining moment that happened in my life that revealed to me that I desperately need this pivot and why.
Hmm.
Again, I'm going to say that again. I want to reveal the defining moment in my life that made me realize why I deeply desire this pivot and why. Because they will resonate with your why before they will resonate with your I'm in this circle of learning and education and
Mhm.
certificates.
Now, for the why, do you recommend that people should focus on the pull factors rather than the push factors? Like what decision made them want this thing that they're now looking towards rather than maybe what they're trying to leave behind? Is that advice that you would give as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a practical example. I use this technique in my chapter 1 in this call where I
Mm.
say, I found myself looking in the mirror and realizing and asking myself, am I going to die the phone guy?
Right.
And the answer to me was no, Keith.
Hmm.
And that caused me to change and take a risk that I wouldn't have normally taken.
Mm.
And that was to join a startup. Now, some of you are on the cusp of that risk, but not many of us on this call, I'm guessing, have not had those conversations with ourselves. And by the way, the person sitting across from you has certainly had those conversations with
Mm.
themselves. So what I'm looking for is not to prove anything. I'm looking to make a connection in an interview because I know connections is what gets me to a yes,
Hmm.
not proving ourselves,
Right.
not proving ourselves. A connection gets to the yes.
Awesome. All right, Stan, we'll squeeze in one more question
All
here.
right, let's go.
So this person is saying that they've essentially got some conflicting advice from different people in regards to their response to tell me about yourself, and it
Mhm,
kind of touches on we asked about personal information earlier,
mhm.
but this person has heard that they should maybe include some information about the things that they do outside of work or likes, interests, things like that. But then they've also heard that you shouldn't touch on that information. So where are your kind of thoughts there? How do you incorporate it if you should, or should you just leave it alone?
I don't tell anything in the my general rule of thumb for the person or people who have asked that question. My general rule of thumb is I don't do anything inside of the answer, tell me about you, that doesn't drive curiosity.
Mm.
I don't answer questions inside of the tell me about you. I simply drive curiosity.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, if you have something in your life that you do that you think is going to drive a bunch of curiosity, yes. Do not put it in there just because you feel good saying it. That's not the right strategy. And if you're dealing with coaches, there are plenty of great ones out there. There are lots of great career coaches out there. Ask your coach to tell you the don't get the blueprint. Ask him to tell you a story. Ask him to tell you tell me about you, right? Like, this is how you judge if you are dealing with a practitioner. You see, Keith, one of the things that I pride myself in is I am a storytelling practitioner. Now, you know, Keith, because you know me, that I'll show up and tell a story, not just show you how to do it. That's what we need when we're trying to learn these, we call them soft skills, Keith, but they're actually human skills.
I love that.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, we are at our allotted time here, Stan, so we'll go ahead and close out. But thank you so much for joining us today.
I love it. Thank you. I hope you'll have me back soon. Thank you all. I hope to see you in the sequence in my next thing, and I hope you see you all inside of my bonus live session too. I'm really hopeful that you all show up. I'll talk to you soon.
Well, thank you again, Stan. And remember, everyone, to keep an eye out for that recap email, which will have all of Stan's links in there as well as the recording. So thank you once again, Stan, and all of our attendees. And we all wish you the best of luck in your job search. Take care.
Take care.